There we go.
So another Cardiff Devils interview this week, and I'm joined by, well, I think one of the legends and real fan favourites of the Cardiff Devils new era, and that is Mr. Trevor Hendrikx. Trevor, beard's looking good, you're looking good. It's lockdown, it's difficult for everybody. How are you coping? How are you?
I'm great. We're doing well over here. We just had our new little baby Hunter, so he's keeping us busy, keeping us on our toes, keeping us restless and not sleeping too much. But we get through that, right? But no, things are good, and we're trying to keep busy as much as we can. I could use a haircut. I'm starting to look like Charles Manson, but other than that, things are good. So.
And family back home and everything. It's a difficult time. We're going to talk about hockey, but it is very much a human time at the moment. Everybody's safe and well in your life?
Yeah, everybody's doing okay. Things are a little bit different back home in Canada. The rules are a little bit more relaxed. Everything's just a bit more spread out, and my family personally kind of lives more in the country, so they're not really too affected by it, but everybody's happy and healthy. They're just wishing they could come over for a visit and see little Hunter. So other than that, things are good.
And Hunter, he's doing well and a future Cardiff Devil, I guess. He's got Welsh ancestry now.
He does, yeah. He's not going to have a choice, really. He's already got skates, so whenever they fit his feet, he'll be on the ice. So no, he's been kicking his feet a lot lately, so he's either going to be a footballer or maybe a hockey player. We'll see. But if I have any say in it, he'll be a hockey player.
Hockey player, good. We look forward to seeing him on the blue line for the Devils in years to come. So it's great to catch up with you because doing the interviews for the Devils. I was trying to recall. I don't think you and I ever got a chance to catch up, and I know you've got great stories, and you were a real fan favorite in Cardiff. Just, I guess, to touch on a few things before your Devils experience began. You had a good kind of career, ECHL, AHL, and you played for a couple of teams who, if you watch Slapshot or you watch Youngblood, you're familiar with the names of the towns. You were Peterborough Petes and Hamilton Bulldogs, weren't you? They must be quite cool places to play hockey.
Yeah, I mean they're all pretty iconic places, and when I first went to Peterborough, that was one of the big junior programs in Canada, and there's a lot of NHLers that had played there, like Steve Yzerman, Chris Pronger, and when you walk in the rink, all their pictures are on the wall, so you can't help but be in a little bit of awe when you walk in there, and right from the time you get there, you know that you're there to work and do your job because you see all these people that have done it before. So that was really cool. And I guess the same thing with Hamilton when I was there, because at the time they were the Montreal Canadiens farm team. So as a kid growing up in Canada, Montreal Canadiens and Toronto Maple Leafs, they're the two big teams in Canada. Mm-hmm. And when I got there for camp, they gave me, I was decked out in Montreal Canadiens gear. I had a Montreal Canadiens helmet and all that stuff. And I just thought, geez, I'm like a kid in a candy store here. This is awesome. Yeah, that was super cool and something that I still cherish to this day.
You mentioned Pronger there, and I'm thinking of a guy called Scott Stevens and that sort of thing. Were there particular heroes of yours or defensemen, players you modeled yourself on?
One player in particular that was always my favorite was Wendel Clark.
Yeah.
Played for the Maple Leafs, and
mm-hmm.
just his style of play. I guess I kind of emulated his style of play a little bit. Like I really liked how he was a really good player, and he was also very tough, and he could do a little bit of everything, and he was just fun to watch. I mean, you go out there and he just bash somebody, and then he'd score a goal the next shift, and he was just, anytime he was on the ice, I was just glued to the TV.
Yeah.
He was definitely one of my favorites.
A guy who can score 50 goals and fight twice a night is pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. You can't really not like a guy like that, can you?
So before you came to Cardiff, in fact, the year before you came to Cardiff, you won the CHL, didn't you? So you were used to lifting trophies above your head. Was it the Allen Americans you played for, and you had a couple of spells there? So talk me through that and winning that CHL.
Yeah, that was really cool. I mean, I played. The Allen Americans were based in Dallas, Texas, and they were a fairly new team, but they were a very good organization. They treated their players very well, had a very nice rink, and always had a good team. So having the chance to go there was something that most players jumped at. So when I had the opportunity, I went there, and the first year I was there, we won the championship, and that was probably one of my favorite championships, just because of the way it ended. I mean, we played a best of 7 playoff series, which is a long series. They don't really have it here, but it was the finals, game 7 in our own rink. We were actually losing 2-0 and the other team was getting a little bit cocky, kind of one by our bench saying, "Oh, we got this, we got this." And then third period came around, and my roommate actually scored in kind of an ugly goal just in front of me, net off a rebound, and we got a bit of life. And then I was lucky enough, I threw one on net with about a minute left, and it bounced in, and sure enough, we went to overtime, and my teammate scored 3 minutes in, and place went crazy. And that's kind of every kid's dream to win a game 7 overtime in your own rink and lift a trophy. So that was pretty amazing. And then the following year, we did a back-to-back, so we won the next year as well. So that was pretty cool to experience that, and then to come here to Cardiff, and we won the Challenge Cup the following year. So I was very lucky to be able to do that, because I know lots of players who've played their whole career and have never had the opportunity to even get one. So I'm very lucky.
I was going to say, game 7 overtime win. I suppose most British boys grow up and think about scoring in a cup final, football cup final or something. If you're a Canadian boy on the out on the pond or what have you, you dream about scoring an overtime winner in a game 7 or winning a game 7, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I probably put myself in that position 300 million times on the ice when I was a little kid. Every time I touched the puck on the ice outside on the outdoor rink, I'd say, "Oh, game 7 overtime, Hendrikx comes down, shoots, scores." And I think every kid growing up in Canada did that same thing. And just to be able to kind of live that out in real life was a really cool experience that I'll never forget.
And you were drafted by Columbus, weren't you? Was there any other sort of opportunity at training camps to potentially, forge a role for yourself in the show, or maybe was that just a little out of reach?
So they drafted me twice, and I was actually able to go to their training camp and everything, their main camp. I went, I think, 4 or 5 times, and it was. You're on the ice with the NHL guys and stuff, but there's only a certain few that were really kind of getting a serious look. But I obviously never got to play a regular season game, but I did play some exhibition games, and that was a cool experience. I mean, I got to be on the ice with guys like Rick Nash and Sergei Fedorov. And funny story, actually, with my first camp there, there was a kid from out west. I don't even remember his name now, but he was a defenseman. We were on the ice with Rick Nash, and Rick Nash was coming down the ice, and this kid just went and hit him. Like, I don't even know if he meant to or but he hit him, and Rick Nash went sliding into the boards and twisted his knee, and he ended up missing, I think, half the season. So that poor kid was on the next flight home to Western Canada, and he never got invited back. So so you see things like that, but that was pretty interesting, to say the least.
I can imagine that poor guy whose career just ended there. Okay, so let's switch to making a move to the Devils. And what I'm interested in, and what we always talk about, that team was built late when Andrew Lord and the new ownership came in. You were a serial winner. You just won 2 championships back to back. Why were you available to Cardiff that late in the summer, and how did the move kind of attract you?
It's a bit of a weird scenario, I guess. I was kind of, I just kind of finished with the Americans there, and I kind of felt like I wanted a bit of a new challenge, kind of accomplishing, 2 championships like that. And I'd always kind of said, I wanted to see a little bit of the world and maybe go over to Europe at some point. And it just kind of came about, and one of my good friends that you'll probably know, Dan LaCosta, goalie that was here the year before I came, Cardiff just kind of came up, and I messaged him and I said, "Oh, what do you think about Cardiff?" And I'm not sure what his experience was when he was here. There was stuff going on, but he still said to me, like, go. It's a great place, and the people there are amazing. And he was someone that I really trusted his opinion, and I'm lucky I did, because, well, here I am. And everything he said was right. And from the time I got here, it just felt like home. The people were so friendly. The fans were so passionate, and it was just such a great hockey town. And it was such an easy choice. And then once I got here, it was kind of funny, because we got all picked up at the airport, and they took us through the way into Cardiff that goes by all the gypsies and
Overway.
The 3 of us were kind of looking at each other like, what are we doing here? And then, obviously we saw the rink, the tent, and we thought, oh, geez, what did we do here? And then, we had our first game, and I'll never forget that first game. Just the place was just rocking, and people stomping their feet in the ground. That was, as much of a, people say it was a stupid little tent, that was probably one of my favorite rinks I ever played in.
That's good to hear. We actually and we hope you come on it soon. The Behind the Bench podcast with Neil Francis. Joey, her dad, was on there last night, and he was talking about that coach trip where you're all a little bit jet lagged. You've been picked up from the airport, and you park up at the rink. That's got to be a tough rink to see when you're a bit jet lagged.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I didn't even think it was a rink. I thought, okay, well, this is where we're getting our cars or something, and then. But it was cool too because it was right by the water. I thought that was really cool how it's like right by the sea. And but yeah, we kind of left there thinking like, geez, what do we get ourselves into? But once we had our first game and saw everything, I think everybody felt the same. They just thought it was such a cool rink, and felt bad for opposing teams coming in there because once the fans started going and we started hitting and doing what we did there, it was like a tidal wave just kind of took over. So. Yeah, the new rink's nice too, but I really like the old one.
The old one certainly had a unique atmosphere all on its own. Obviously, we're going to talk about your physicality, but I always hate pigeonholing guys like that. You were a good defender, moved the puck quickly, good first pass, took care of things in your own zone, cleared the net. I guess, how would you describe yourself as a defenseman and what you brought to the Cardiff Devils?
Well, it's tricky. I guess when I was here with the Devils, it was more of kind of like you described, like just more of a defense first type of thing. And, obviously the physicality and the fighting and stuff was there. But, over the course of my career, I've been many different players. And it actually kind of started when I was in Peterborough. I went to Peterborough as a young kid, and I was actually an offensive defenseman, believe it or not. And I went there, and I was a 16-year-old kid, and I didn't play very much. And I realized that my coach at the time, he was an old enforcer from back in the day, who played in the NHL. And I started picking up on if guys fought, automatically they got put on the first line and they got to play a lot. So I kind of said, well, I want to play. So I just started fighting people. And once you start fighting people, you kind of get a little bit of a reputation. And that kind of is what got me, one of the reasons I got drafted to Columbus. They really wanted me to fight a lot. So I did that for a while, and they kind of said, well, we'd like to see you play a little bit. So I went back to being Mr. Offense, and I put up quite a few points in junior. And then, everywhere I went after that, it was kind of dependent on what the coach wanted from me. Cause I had I thought I could do a little bit of everything. I wasn't really, awesome at one thing. I was fairly good at a lot of things. So, I kind of was a bit of a chameleon, I guess. I would kind of change the way I played to kind of fit in what the coach wanted from me. But it was cool. It was nice to be able to do that. And I enjoyed the way I played here in Cardiff, and I'm happy with my style of play here. And I left it all on the ice, and, it was a great 2 years here.
I'm going to go off on a tangent now, and I am conscious of time, so we might have to do a part 1 and part 2 on this. But you mentioned that, and you mentioned seeing how you could get more ice time. So with all the talk about it, I want to ask you, as an articulate guy and an intelligent guy, but a guy who knew he maybe had to fight to get recognized. We've all watched the sort of the Derek Brassard documentaries and see what happened to Wade Belak and unfortunate guys like that. What's your take now on the place of fighting in hockey?
Well, we might need a part 3 if we're going to go down this road.
Part 3, yeah.
I'll try to keep it short, but for me, fighting should always be in the sport. It's been around in the sport forever, and I understand that the head injuries are coming to the forefront. To me, I feel that the injuries come more from hits and just the sheer speed of the game right now. Like, the game is catered for fast players. Like, there's no obstruction, there's no interfering. You have a 6'4", 240-pound guy who can skate like the wind, and nobody can get in his way. So, even if he doesn't mean to hit somebody, if he loses an edge or something and two people collide, it's those kind of hits and those kind of plays that cause the bad head injuries and stuff like that. And I don't really watch much hockey anymore, but even when I do watch NHL, you see lots of really just kind of dirty plays, people swinging sticks, and I think with taking the fighting out of the game, you're going to see a lot more of those types of plays, which to me are more dangerous than two guys just saying, hey, you want to fight? Okay. And then drop the gloves and it's done with. And, for the most part, guys don't get really that badly hurt in a fight. It sounds horrible to say that, but I think you'd have more of a chance getting hurt from a dirty hit than you would in a fight. But that's just my opinion.
No, absolutely, and I guess it's always been self-policing in the game. When you talk to somebody who isn't a hockey fan and they say you can fight on the ice, but the fighting is really to cut down on the nasty stick work and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that some people see, some people don't. But just the presence of someone for example, like when I was in Glasgow, you guys had Patrick Bordelot.
Hmm.
I know he didn't fight very much, but just his sheer presence on the ice, I could just see like my teammates were different players. They would act differently because they just you don't want to deal with a 6'7" guy who that's just the way it is. So having that player on the ice, I think makes their teammates a bit bigger, and also keeps everybody in check a little bit. But I think things have changed now a little bit, so you don't see that type of player anymore. But it's definitely a much more skilled and speedful game that we see now on the ice.
Trevor, I'm conscious that you've actually got to go off and run a Zoom class for the kids, which I think is great. So I'm hoping that we can maybe do this as a part one, your time before you got to Cardiff. We haven't even got to Cardiff yet, so
Yeah.
we can do this as a part two. But just on that note, just in the last couple of minutes of part one, tell me about Hendrikx hockey, and even though the lockdown's going on, you're still being able to provide some coaching to a lot of enthusiastic youngsters out there.
Yeah, I've done this kind of my whole life back in Canada, but it was nice to finally, I was always working for somebody else, so it was nice to finally set up my own hockey camp, and it's been great. It's been really cool over here because a lot of kids that I'm coaching are kids that would come to the games when I was playing here. So I have kids that I'm coaching that some of them started playing hockey because they came to the games and watched me play. And I had a really cool experience a couple months ago. The under 15s team here in Cardiff,
Mm-hmm.
they won the trophy. They won the league.
Yep.
And they'd asked me if I would come down and present the trophy. So I came down and I presented it to the captain of the team. And he was one of the players. His name was Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the players that started playing because he had saw me play. And it was a really cool moment for both of us, really, because I remember him coming to the games, and I'd always try to make an effort
Yeah.
to speak to the kids and to be able to kind of share that moment with them and give the trophy to them was really cool. But it's going really well, and I absolutely love it. Just being able to teach kids, and it's such a rewarding experience being able to show them something and have them do it and just see the smile on their face, and just it's just a really rewarding job that I'm doing right now, and it's something I'm really passionate about. And obviously with the lockdown, it's tough to do any sort of hockey training because the rink's obviously closed.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I'm using the Zoom platform, which we're using now, and it's a bit of a creative way of coaching because I have about 15 or 20 kids that'll come on, and basically I've been showing them some stick handling videos, and I'll show them the video, and then they'll actually do it, and I'm able to actually speak to them face to
Yeah.
face and watch them all do it and give them some constructive feedback, and kind of help them improve their game when they can't be on the ice and do the things they want. So but no, it's going good. So yeah, I have one more tonight, and then I guess I'll pop back on with you, John.
Absolutely. Last question, Trevor, before you go, is there, because you're seeing all these kids, and the Elite League, understandably, as a business model, is a bums on seat league, and so the focus is on the senior teams. Is there talent in Cardiff and around the UK that you're seeing? Is there hope for youngsters of the future coming through?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really talented, really good kids here in Cardiff. I've coached other places as well in England and Scotland. I've been, very impressed with the level of talent that's around here. And I think with the right encouragement and the right coaching, some of these kids can make it. But at the same time, they're at a very big disadvantage because with the setup of the Elite League right now, I mean, every team has 13, 14
Mm-hmm.
imports, Canadians, and most Canadians have been playing hockey their whole life and every day if they wanted to. So right there they have a big disadvantage because they're not on the ice as much. They don't have the same training per se, but there is hope for them, and you know, I think you know, you're seeing a lot of younger players kind of coming through the ranks, and you know, it's just about developing them in the right way, and giving them the tools that they need to, you know, to make it to the next level, and I try my best to help them with that, because you know, obviously I've been there, and I know, you know, the things that they should be doing that will get them to those spots. So you know, I wouldn't be surprised in a few years if we were to see some of these kids coming through the ranks, future Devils, hopefully. But I'll be doing my best to get them there. So hopefully we'll be on the ice soon.
Trevor, I will let you go and do your best now because you've got to run a class, but we haven't touched on the Devils in the Elite League time yet. So hopefully we can catch up again later and come back for part 2.
All right, sounds good, John. We'll talk to you then.
Thanks, Trevor.